Howdy people, Saint Riot, Sick Riot. This is typically one of those videos I would do like a bunch of silly voices for, but I'm sick, so no, not gonna happen. However, I'm a hard-working man. Who was that? Tim McGraw. There is no content on this planet that people like more. If you're into PvP, there's no content that is better than invading Gankers and getting revenge on Gankers. It's a tale as old as time. Believe it or not, there's actually like Ganker content out there, but no one watches it because no one cares. You know, just no one's that hyped for it. No one wants to see, you know, Gankers. But what people do like is they, especially, you know, in games like where the Gankers are trying to bully invaders, you know, people love that. People love to see the underdog come out on top, right? It's just good content. And it's one of the main reasons I am so bummed out about the way Elden Ring did the Taunter's Tongue compared to the Dried Finger in the Dark Souls games. It's because it gets rid of that. It completely removes, you know, the possibility of getting that type of content. Because the Gankers can just decide like, okay, that's it, we're done. And, you know, it's like, I understand protecting the players who need protecting. The new players, the players who are just like hanging out, trying to play through the game, and, you know, I totally get trying to protect those types of players. But, like, you'll only ever accidentally use that Taunter's Tongue without knowing what it does. You'll only do that once. You know, you'll learn pretty quick that you should not be using that, right? I feel like. So, like, those are the only types of players, in my opinion. Like, you know, they don't need protection. They know what they're doing, right? A lot of people get mad that From Software tries to, like, you know, protect some of these just absolute buffoons. And it's one of those things that, like, I get it. You know, I'm not mad at them for trying to look out for those types of players. I get that. But I feel like the other types of players, you know, you don't have to look out for them. You know, they'll figure it out. But anyway, back to the video. This is one of those instances where, you know, they actually thought that they had what it took, and you know, in that first clip, they did. They had what it took. Now these fellas right here, a little different. Probably not like trying to gank on purpose, but they have stumbled upon the worst thing in the world, in my opinion, which is like just 15 guys throwing stuff. 15 guys throwing stuff is just the most annoying thing in the world. And if I were to sit down and say, all right, I'm going to go do some invasions, and I want to maximize the amount of wins that I get, one of the very first things that I would put on a build would be something that tries to mitigate or neutralize 3 guys throwing stuff. This build doesn't have anything like that. Well, not entirely, but you know, like it's not. This build's like, hey, I'm a tank. I'm a paladin, basically. I'm gonna set a buff up right here, and I'll fight you while I got my buff going. To their credit, the weakness of this build is just standing outside of that buff zone and throwing stuff into it, or using status effect stuff. That works too. So this is one of those invasions that's kind of, you know, like I could have a great time with this blue, like we could have like a hell of a fight inside of my little circle. But you add in somebody throwing stuff and some other guy throwing stuff, and that kind of goes out the window, right? Maybe if I had some those blue magic livers or whatever they're called that give you better magic damage negation, something like that. And actually, I guess it might be worth experimenting with that on this build. This is the build that I've most recently made, and I am, I've been playing through the game, getting all the stuff that I want, and then doing some invasions at different level ranges to see how the build works. And like at level 15 to level 30, level 60 even, this build's pretty gross at that level. But it gets a little more honest as it goes up, because regeneration and damage absorptions start meaning a little less, because people's damage is going up. But I didn't want to just park this disgusting build down here at level 15 or level 30, you know. I don't think that would have been a lot of fun. You know, that episode of Futurama where the guys, they're watching the Futurama equivalent of the Twilight Zone, the scary door, and the guy gets hit by a car, and then he wakes up in a casino, and he wins. And he says, "A casino where I win? That car must have killed me. I must be in heaven." And then he plays the slot machine again, and he says, "A casino where I always win. I must be in hell." It's a very fine line, isn't it? It is for me, anyway. Between, like, what's too good, you know? But, that last invasion, like, we managed to win. I'm putting air quotes around that, because that didn't feel like much of a win to me. But, you know, we did manage to win. But we'll run into those guys again, and we'll get another shot at it. And, spoiler alert, even the blue makes a second appearance. But this guy, for example, there's no joy. This invasion does not spark joy. You know, I don't want to just win, right? But there's no better feeling than, you know, there's no better feeling than losing one, especially losing one on some bullshit, and then getting the run back and getting the win. You know, that's great. So this is one of those situations where we've invaded the same people again. But it's not because they have a Taunter's Tongue active. It's just been the amount of time where these people can get invaded again. You know, it's 15 minutes or whatever it is. And in the weirdest turn of events, that same blue is going to get summoned again, which is just a really big coincidence, I guess. Or maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe it has something to do with, you know, the way the online activity works in this game. Might be, you know, closer to Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne and you know, than we thought. Back in the day, there used to be, you know, Dark Souls 1, there used to be a thing that people would talk about, the node system, which was like, yeah, you know, you're playing online, the game connects to the server, and you are connected to a small group of players that are in your node. And then the players that they're connected to in their node eventually connect to you and yours. And then the players that those people are connected to. And so the longer you played a session online, the bigger your node would become. And now you're playing with more players. But you would get sort of locked in with players, and you would just run into the same players over and over and over and over again. And the only way to fix that was to restart the game completely. Like in Bloodborne, sometimes you'll see people, like I do like an event where we do Bloodborne co-op and PvP, and when I do that, I have to, I would just, return to the Hunter's Dream, basically just see a loading screen and then get back into it. And we thought that that was enough, but it turned out that it wasn't. You actually had to restart the entire game in order to refresh your node. And it might be that there's a little bit of that left over in Elden Ring, albeit far less noticeable. But it was interesting that we invaded this same person, and they, summoned through no, outside of just having the blue ring on, through no decision of their own, they summoned the same exact blue as last time. Well, one of them, the one with the big hat. I don't know about the other one. I think that other one was AFK and just never showed up to this. And to be honest, by the time the other guy shows up, it's too late. But we are in much better position here in this invasion to control everything, just by virtue of the fact that it's not a tiny little cave, and despite the fact that there's not a bunch of enemies around, it's just the fact that we can move better, that we're able to use this area and this space in a much more interesting way, which rules. And there's not three guys just throwing stuff at us, right? And so this feels more like, this is what it's like, mister. This is what it's like, and it feels good. It feels good to get these. And you're like, well, Saint, you didn't even really, you still kind of, quote, won, end quote, the other one. But I didn't win it enough. Don't you understand? Now we can full on win this. Welcome to Dark Souls. Yeah, watch him die. Watch him die. Oh, you might have noticed I'm using the rotted duelist axe, which I talked about in another video, how I had switched to the regular duelist axe because it's much better in terms of damage. It does have, it doesn't have Scarlet Rot on it, but the damage it does is much better, noticeably better. I think 100 attack power stronger, which is, that's nothing to sneeze at. This invasion here, not some gankers, I don't think. Just some people hanging out doing co-op, getting invaded, and feeling like, oh yeah, we got this. There's no enemies around. Let's really give it to them. Let's really show them what's what. And so that's what they want to do. And they're pretty good. They're in control here. Got the two swords of Night and Flame. This sword is making a comeback in regards to its popularity because of the 1.10 patch. When this game first came out, if you played 1.1 or whatever it was, and you did any invasions, the Sword of Night and Flame was in every invasion you did. There was no escaping it. It was like Rivers of Blood or Moonveil. It was that popular because that Ash of War right there would do an insane amount of damage. Just an absolutely absurd amount of damage. And I remember I had 40 vigor, I think. Or I think it was 40. I always forget what the recommended number of vigor is in this game until I'm looking at the stat sheet. I can't remember if it's 50 or 60. I either had 40 vigor or I had 50 vigor. Not sure which. But a guy hit me with that Ash of War, and it did 80% of my health and killed me. And I was like, good God. And it was at that moment I realized how much different Elden Ring was going to be from Dark Souls 3. And yeah, after that, I learned how to roll that Ash of War, because you had to, because it was everywhere. But his buddy's gone. We beat his friend, and now he's got a blue friend, right? And I'm using my Holy Ground Ash of War to stay buff, you know, to raise up my damage negation and give me some regen, and it's nice. And you can see I can tank some hits, and I really am able to sort of allocate my flask usage in a really, you know, like, it's not a big deal if I get hit a few times, you know, like I don't have to try and worry about healing. I can just keep swinging at people, and I've also got some Ashes of War that I can use on some weapons that will also heal me, so I've got that going for me as well. And I can really just, like, have some fun with these guys. And that's what I think we're doing. I think we're having fun, you know? But much like a pit bull who mauls a toddler, maybe we're not having fun. Maybe this isn't fun for them. But I don't know that, you know? All I know is I got a bone, right? Fun. Until you know, the sheriff's office shows up and shoots me. Because, yeah, as it turns out, this host was not having as much fun as I was having. You know, the best part of invading is that it's kind of hard, right? Even against regular, normal players, it's kind of hard. They have a chance, they can win, you know? It doesn't take an insane amount of knowledge or understanding to win. All it takes is, like, there to be 2 or 3 of you, and that's enough to carry you to victory in this game. There were builds that were so bad in Dark Souls 3 that they just couldn't win, you know, even if they had the numbers advantage. Same thing in Bloodborne. Same thing in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. In Elden Ring, that's really not the case. There's not a build out there that doesn't at least do some damage, right? So that's what makes these gankers, like, overcoming them so much fun. Is you find these gankers, and I love the fact that this guy, he's like, he made a little lore build, you know, and then he decided he wanted to gank with it. That's funny to me. And his buddies, they don't care. You know, they're just going to use ganker stuff. Moog's Red Circle and whatever else you got, you know. But thankfully, this build has the Executioner's Axe on it. The Executioner's Axe is brutal on a backstab or a riposte because it has like 115 critical modifier, which is pretty good. And yeah, there's just no better feeling than getting these gankers on the run back, the salty run back, and like assuring them, you know, like, you may have defeated me, you may have beaten me, but it wasn't you. You never stood a chance. That's the best feeling in the world. I love it. You love it. We all love it. And now we all get to experience it. You can kill me if you want, but I've already won. And so is my audience. I'll see you guys next time. Till then, later, y'all.